he's fake news and he isn't going to call for him. What I suspect we are seeing here is an attempt to discredit legitimate, responsible attempts to report on this incoming administration with irresponsible journalism that hurts us all, and the media going forward should keep that in mind. So that's one, just to get that out of the way.
You're referring specifically to Buzzfeed.
Yeah, it's irresponsible to put uncorroborated information on the Internet. I can understand why presidents like Trump would be upset about that. I would be upset about it, too. It's why we did not publish it and why we did not detail any specifics from it, because it was uncorroborated, and that's not what we do. We are in the business of sussing out what is true and what is false.
And yet they jumped on that bandwagon a few days ahead of time. Right? It's not just the Internet. Bad enough that BuzzFeed threw it out on the Internet. You guys threw it out on Internet television and cable television.
Absolutely. It's a far bigger audience. You know, the other thing, they want to get on Trump for the way he treated the reporter there. Well, Obama did the same thing to Fox News blatantly not that long ago. Nobody said a word about that. That was fine.
The hypocrisy is huge. And if anyone wants to call in and comment on this, 734-822-1600, you can call in. Or if you want to email me at gary@thedailydrift.com, and I can read your comments on the air if you don't feel like calling into the show. Some people don't have the ability to get on and publicly speak like this. We do. All 13 listeners. Yes, exactly. So, It's amazing, and it is bunk, because one of the things that came out of it was how phony now, and the trust level. It's not just the trust level with the media; it's the trust level with our own intelligence services now. Because there was a couple of surveys that came out this last week. 70% of the people that were surveyed had more trust in WikiLeaks than they did our own intel services. That's damage of the highest order. You know, and it's because of the politicization of our intel services.
Well, yeah, and they haven't necessarily been that great either. Didn't some of the Secret Service guys get in trouble in Colombia?
And then, you know, and let's face it, you can go back to, now, one of my things that I always worry about, the intelligence services said there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They said there was nuclear weapons being developed in Iraq. Well, there never turned out. At least we didn't find anything nuclear. But they did find weapons of mass destruction. That bothers me when people say we didn't, because you know what? I've got friends who were in the Iraq war. They've got problems due to the chemical weapons. So I consider weapons of mass destruction chemical, biological weapons.
Absolutely.
You know,
that fell under that
umbrella. There were weapons of mass destruction there. So they didn't get that wrong. They did get wrong the fact that there were nuclear weapons, which I think is what really kind of pushed us into the Iraq war more than anything else. But since then, we've had, you know, just disaster after disaster. Benghazi, you know, don't tell us it's a video, right? We all know now it wasn't a video, and why weren't they stepping up and either preventing it or what was going on there? Is there something more to that? And I think we all know now it hasn't been. There were gun running, right?
Absolutely. There's quite a bit more to that.
I'm hoping, you know, with the new administration, and if we get these politicized heads of the Department of Justice and the CIA and the FBI out of here and put some people in who actually want the truth, maybe that's what we'll get, and we'll see something.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you look at the people that Trump is appointing, these guys were all CEOs or they had executive experiences, brass in the military. Those are the type of people that you want heading up these departments, not some policy wonk that knows no better.
Yeah, and I've gotten a chance to listen to quite a bit of the confirmation hearings this last week, which is really cool. I've never been able to do it like I've done this week. But let's finish up one thing on this dossier. So John Bolton, former Ambassador John Bolton, was being interviewed by Breitbart. And he had this to say about that dirty dossier. Derek, you got track 3 ready? All right, let's play this.
Could it be the case that somebody has just paid this guy to write these things so this leak came out?
Well, that thought occurred to me because it's so bad, and I haven't found anybody, including friends who are experienced in both diplomacy and military and intelligence affairs, who haven't just laughed at most of it. You know, it's filled with anonymous sources and single source information and whatnot. So the notion, if I were a corporate customer and I wanted, in effect, a private investigator, I mean, I think that's what this firm basically is, and I got something back like this, I would refuse to pay because you and I could sit down at a computer right now and type out these 35 pages, just let our imagination run wild. And if somebody would pay for it, I suppose it's a nice work if you can get it. But where it takes on a life of its own and gets published by whatever you want to call Buzzfeed, as a source of electrons somewhere, and then is used to attack people's character. It's just, I mean, it is completely out of control.
All right, so garbage. Right?
Right.
And what's really concerning to me, which I took a lot of offense at, was Senator John McCain, who's always been an ever-Trumper, right?
Absolutely.
And allegedly these stories were kind of circulating in the upper echelons of Washington since summertime, right, of last year. And nobody could find anything. There was no evidence. It was just hearsay. But these people, especially the never-Trumpers like McCain, kind of had it out there. Well, he finally figured, I'm going to take it to the FBI. And he went and met with the FBI director. And I don't know that this is what finally helped BuzzFeed say, look, there's something in writing from John McCain giving something to the FBI. However it happened, It was wrong. And to this day, as you watch the confirmation hearings, I look at Graham and McCain and Rubio, and we'll get to him in a minute. You know, it's nonsense. Stop with you're supposed to be a Republican, and yet here you are trying to throw your own presidential candidate, the president-elect, under the bus. Amazing.
Well, don't forget either that it wasn't that long ago that he was in Syria getting his pictures taken with certain people he probably shouldn't have had his picture taken with, with some of those ISIS guys.
Yeah, and that was and those pictures are all over the internet, folks. You can see John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio meeting with these alleged rebels, right?
Yeah, that's carrying Obama's water to suit their agenda with that pipeline. The whole thing was about a pipeline.
Yes, and it always comes back to money, doesn't it? Yeah. And if you haven't seen those memes, you need to really look at them. But there's a picture of John McCain with al-Baghdadi and some other these really bad ISIS guys.
Yeah, there were 2 or 3 other guys.
So at what point, Mr. McCain, Senator McCain, do you have some culpability of what's been happening in the Middle East? You set it on fire as much as Hillary.
Yeah.
Outrageous. Let's take a call from Joanne in Catskill, New York. Joanne, welcome to the show.
Hi, Gary. I just really enjoy your show so much. I have to tell you that. I called in once before and got Mike and Ed mixed up, and now you have Dave. So, but I do enjoy your co-hosts very much. I really enjoy their comments, and I just wanted to mention real quick. Well, first of all, with going to the inauguration, my husband keeps encouraging me not to get into the fear and all the hype about all the protests and everything. I know you're going to be attending, and I was going to say, if Trump got in office, it's like a miracle, and there may be a few tough months, with all this, but I do think we have to just keep positive that, some of these the people who make the most noise really don't have the influence that you think a lot of times.
Yeah, I got to believe that, in the end, the powers that be in Washington, even the ones that oppose Trump, don't want to see wholesale anarchy and problems in the street. They can make their protests. They can do what they've got to do. But I think everything should be pretty well in hand.
Yeah, and I just want to ask you, what do you think of, what I think is just awful, I can't get over it, are the Bushes really not going to attend the inauguration? The 2 George Bushes?
George W., I believe, is, but I don't know that. I know the elder isn't going to for health reasons. I highly doubt Jeb would.
Yeah, HW is probably really old.
I'm glad to hear that. I thought they weren't, I think the Clintons, well, who cares? But, a lot of them, I think the only presidents then attending would be Carter and Bush, living presidents.
I thought I heard the Clintons were going as well. But I won't swear to that. And I had just seen the other day that George W. was actually going to be there.
Right. I'm sure Carter is very pleased to no longer be the worst president in history.
Right, exactly. They could celebrate that. But and do you know if with these Senate hearings, this is just my own ignorance, but when are they actually confirmed? The ones that they've been listening to.
I can't tell you either, Joanne. I know that we've got Betsy DeVos next week. I think Tillerson's done. I think Sessions is done. They haven't done the vote on them. Okay. And I don't know if they do it piecemeal, a few at a time or what. I got to say, I haven't paid attention since 8 years ago, so I don't
Matt
really
has got his waiver, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, he got his waiver, so he can be officially voted on. And I guess they'll probably see... Yeah, the waiver because he was in the military.
He wasn't out long enough.
Yeah. Okay, that's right.
You got to be out 7 years or 6 years, I think.
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't mean to keep you on. I just was, I'm glad to hear that about a Bush. I just some of these Republicans, like you just said, I just cannot believe. You just wonder, has there been any distinction between Democrats and Republicans with some of these people, and just politicians, really?
Yeah, I think in the end, and I've said this too, because I've talked to some very liberal people who have that Trump derangement syndrome. They're really freaked out. And I said, you're going to be, I don't know why you're freaking out. Number one, he's not the most conservative Republican. Out of the 16, he was probably the more moderate of them, and yet they're acting like he's the right-wing devil. You know what I mean?
I know. And it's just, so much of that, like I said, I think is loud, listening to some of the louder noises. And then even with the confirmations, when you think of it, I heard with Sessions, they had all this stuff they were going to put up there against him, and they weren't well organized in the end, and he did great. So I think that's, I'm trying to keep positive,
Yeah, I wanted to play a track from Cory Booker, who actually got on and testified against Sessions, and yet there's a video running through Twitter and Gab and Facebook of not too long ago, Cory Booker saying the most fabulous things about Jeff Sessions.
It was an honor to work with him.
Yes, and so it is crazy. It really is. So,
well, thank you. I won't keep you on. I enjoyed the show. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Joanne. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's the hypocrisy of the left on some of these things is just incredible. It really is.
Well, yeah, let's look at the purported Republicans, and the answer lies in where's the opposition been for the past 8 years? They've sat silent on the bench while everything's gotten passed.
Yeah. Let's take a call from, who's that, Derek? Ed from Ipsy. Ipsy Ed, how you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good. I've been listening for the last 20 minutes. I want to congratulate you on finally getting a decent co-host.
Thank you.
We always have good co-hosts here, Ed. You know that. What do you got, man?
Oh, nothing. That was it. I'm sorry. I was just in a driving situation and just almost got hit. So I got distracted. I'm going to hang up now.
All right. Well, don't get distracted. We don't need those kind of drive. I don't want that on my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. Take care, Ed. Appreciate the call.
Talk to you later.
All right. So, the hypocrisy is just absolutely crazy. It's like watching the Obamacare repeal, right? Which happened here, and we can actually play you a little something. I thought this was funny. Derek, you got track 6 ready? This is the House. The Senate had already passed the procedure to start the repeal of Obamacare. And some people are already like, they're taking it away. This is just the process, folks. It still requires a signature from the president to become law, right? But let's listen to this, track 6.
The chairman of the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union reports the committee has had under consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution 3 and pursuant to House Resolution 48.
Who knew you had to be an auctioneer
resolution back to the House. Under the rule of the previous question is ordered. The question is on adoption of the concurrent resolution. Under Clause 10 of Rule 20, the ayes and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 5-minute vote. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, this 5-minute vote on adoption of the concurrent resolution will be followed by 5-minute votes on passage of the bill.
So I just thought that was cute because the guy is just rattling it off, man. Yeah. He's got an auctioneer future ahead of him if he's not going to stay in the House, that's for sure. But it was interesting that it's a 5-minute. They got a 5-minute window to cast their vote. You know what I mean? And as you're watching on video there, you can see some of them had to kind of run to get down there, from their seats. So you got to think, if you're 70, 75 years old and still a congressman, you've got some running to do, baby. You better not be in the walker because you might have a problem getting in there. But the House passed it as well. But it doesn't mean anything's going to happen yet because there's still some of the Republicans are now fighting, hey, we want to do a repeal and replace. And some people just want to repeal it and get it out of the way, and let's do. Well, I don't know that makes any sense either. To just repeal it, and then what do you do?
Right, because then you own it. You broke it, you own it, even though it was broke previously.
Yeah. And the Democrats are saying, well, there have been plans out there, and I think Price coming in as HHS has got a plan that he has put forth numerous times.
Yeah, he's had a plan.
And so I think the Republicans will wait, and I hope they do, because I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I think they should.
Don't make it any worse. There are people who need it. But you know what? Let's take into account all the things that the Democrats never looked at when we were talking about it the first time. Obamacare might have been a success had they said you can buy across state lines.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's no competition. Of course, they don't understand the free market anyway. That's a whole different subject.
If they had said to the Lawyers Guild, we're going to put some limits on these cases that go to court for medical abuse or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
You get a $100 million lawsuit. come on. None of us are worth $100 million, right? I mean,